Good morning everybody, this is Stephen Pugh of the Home Bible College. It's October the 8th and we're looking at 2 Thessalonians and chapter 3, the last chapter. My password today is a long sentence, or part of a long sentence, from verse 14 onwards. Let me read it to you. He says, "And if any man obey not our word by this epistle, note that man, and have no company with him, that he may be ashamed. Yet count him not as an enemy, but admonish him as a brother." Now Paul is dealing with a particular problem that was occurring in the Thessalonian church and in other churches. He speaks about the brother that walks disorderly in verse 6. He says, "We command you, brethren, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that you withdraw yourselves from every brother that walketh disorderly, and not after the tradition which ye received of us. For you yourselves know how you ought to follow us, how we behaved not ourselves disorderly among you. Neither did we eat any man's bread for naught, but wrought with labour and travail night and day, that we might not be chargeable unto you, not because we have not power, but to make ourselves an example for you to follow us. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat." So what Paul is talking about here is laziness among the Christians. And there are certain people, yes, they're Christians, and this is not a great sin, but it is something which is not orderly. He calls it disorderly. And these people are lazy. He talks about it some more. He says, "We hear that there are some that walk among you disorderly, working not at all, but are busybodies. Now them that are such we command and exhort by our Lord Jesus, that with quietness they work and eat their own bread." So the example of the apostles, and this is why Paul gave this example specifically, the example of the apostles is that Christians should work. By all possible means they should work. And not only should they work, but they should work in order to obtain honourable wages, and those honourable wages are able then to be used to support the work of God, and they're able to give charity to the poor. Now this is a wonderful thing. And Paul says, "I really want to exhort you to do this." Now if somebody doesn't follow this tradition, he says, then you are to excommunicate them? Not really, no. You are to withdraw yourselves from every brother that walketh disorderly. There are lots of things, you see, that are not specifically a sin. It's not a sin to not work, but it isn't the example of the apostles. That's the point. And all Christians should, in normal circumstances, endeavour to work to be self-supporting. And Paul says, and this is my password, "If any man obey not our word by this epistle, note that man." Take note of them. Realise who they are, and have no company with him, that he may be ashamed. Not so that he might go out and never come back. That's not the point at all. But have no company with him. It doesn't mean go up and berate him and tell him off and say what he should do. That's not what he says. Have no company with that man, that he might be ashamed. But count him not as an enemy, but admonish him as a brother. If you have a brother in the flesh and he's living in a way that you can't really understand and can't really agree with, what do? Do you never speak to him again? Treat him as an enemy? Far from it. You treat him as a brother, and brothers should always treat one another with due respect, and the same is true in the church. He says, if you have a brother that doesn't follow our example, he's not working, has no intent to work, then admonish him as a brother. Tell him, look, this isn't something that you really need to do. This is something, and just withdraw yourself from him, because that will be a lesson to him. He will understand that you haven't been cruel, that you don't seek to never speak to him again, that you love him and the Lord, but that you also don't approve of his behavior. And so this is a very interesting passage. Paul says, get on and work together. And this is a passage not about excommunication. It's not about excommunication. It's about how to deal with somebody that's doing something which you don't approve of, and which is not following the example of the apostles. A sobering passage, isn't it? Something that we all should understand and take special note of. Well, God bless you. Great to talk to you, and look forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye for now.